Okay, I'm just going to give an overview of the rapid extraction system, the software, the res command software. This will give you an overview of the how to use the software, how simple it is, and sort of the compliance of the software. So I'll just double click on the icon here. Representation of the system. It's telling me in this box what it's actually doing. It's connecting to the instrument. It's initializing the firmware. It's connecting to the handheld barcode scanner. It's connecting to the flow cell barcode scanner. And now it's connected to the filter barcode scanner. So there's 3 barcode scanners, 1 external and 2 internal. The 2 internal barcode scanners, one scans the filter and one scans the flow cell, and the flow cell is where the extraction takes place. Right, so the system is ready and it's asking me to log in. But before I log in, I'll just give you a quick sort of overview. On the right hand side here, we've got a representation of the carousel. It is a 30 position carousel, so you can have 30 samples on there. This is the position where the extraction takes place, and the door of the carousel sits around here. So if I want to, I can remove my samples when they're in this position. Some icons down here of various actions. Play, stop, rotate the carousel down here, and on the left hand side I've got my work list of samples that are going to be processed, have been processed, etc. And it's also color coded. Green means that it's been run and that it's finished successfully. If I had a red one, it means that it's tried to run and there's been an error. And then I have white and amber as well for other statuses of the system. Okay, so I'm going to log in now. Whenever you try and do anything on the system, it will require you to log in. So it is a full audit trail of who's using the system and what they are doing. Also, depending on your user privileges, you can only do certain things on the system. Anyway, I'm going to log in now. I'm logging in as an administrator, which will give me rights to set other users up on the system and set their privileges. Right, so log in, and now it's telling me what the system is doing here. So it's saying it's initializing, and it's given a representation that it's going to find position 1 on the carousel. Okay, it also initializes the balances. There's 2 balances in the system. There's a 3 decimal place balance for the extraction fluid, and there's a 4 decimal place balance for the dilution step. Okay, so it's checked all of the positions, it's checked the balances, would have checked the barcode scanners and everything else that's inside the system, and it's initialized, and now it's ready to go. I'll just concentrate on here. So this is a sample that was run. It's saying that it's in position 1. The user logged in who ran the sample was Nigel Harris. That's a description of the sample that you put in when you do the sample setup. There's a second description field if you want to do that. The method that was run, but what you must notice here is that this is revision 3 of the method. If you create a method, every single change you make to that method is catalogued. Okay, you cannot change that. The system captures everything that you do. It is fully compliant audit trail. The mode is a normal mode. You have 2 modes, normal or fast mode. Normal mode is more accurate with your dilutions and your dispensing of fluids, and your fast mode is less so. But whichever mode you are in, it will record the actual volume or gravimetric amount received, so you always have a record of what it actually did. And then the status, in this case this sample was run. So I'm just going to highlight this sample now, and as you can see, it's highlighted the sample on the carousel position, and I'm now just going to double click on here. It's given me a few things that I can look at on here. I can open the sample report. If I hadn't run this sample, it would allow me to edit the sample details. The system would capture that I've edited the sample details and it's in its system log. But up to the point that you run the sample, you can change things. At the point that the sample is going to run, you cannot change anything. If I want to bring my sample out of the system, I can rotate here, and I will do that. Click on there, and you see that the carousel is putting the sample into this position. Also note that down here it's telling me what it's doing. It's rotating the sample. Okay, it's finished doing that, and the system has now said it's ready. Okay, so I can open the door and I can take my sample if I wanted to. Okay, so that's one way of getting to the information that you need. So I could get my sample report if I wanted from there. I can either also I could deactivate my sample from the work list. So if I had many samples on here and I think I don't want to run this sample now, I'm going to deactivate it. I can't obviously because the sample on here has been run already. It won't let me deactivate a sample that has already been run. But if I had one that hadn't been run, I wanted to say I'll run that one later. I'll just deactivate it, and then you can go in later and reactivate it. Or I can remove the sample from the work list. That only removes the sample from the work list. It does not remove the sample from the database. Once the sample has been run, it is firmly committed into the database of the system. I won't open the sample report from here. I'll open it in a different position using these icons down here. I will close that. Okay. So if I just come down to here now, I have my maintenance function. I have my reports, so that's sample report, method report, and system reports. The system always tracks what it's doing. It logs every single detail with a time and date stamp and the user. Okay, then I have my methods in here. This is if I want to create new methods. I have my user management on here. This is for me, because I'm an administrator, I'm able to get into here. If I wasn't an administrator, then I would not have access to this position. Also, if I was just a user, I wouldn't have access to methods. Okay, so when as an administrator, I can create a user and I can give them certain privileges. Okay, then I have settings, and I also have, which is grayed out because I'm not a service engineer. If I was logged in as a service engineer, I would get access to these settings. And then this icon here is if I had an external balance fitted to the system. So we have an external balance that we can fit to the system, which records the mass, and that mass will then go into the sample report. I don't have it fitted, so that's why that's grayed out. Over here, play, stop, rotate carousel. So if I want to start a run, stop a run if a run is in progress. Obviously that's grayed out because no run is in progress. Just going to show you what's in the maintenance functions. So I can initialize the system from here. It's already initialized when as you saw that it did that down here. But if I wanted to initialize, I can, and that resets all of the positions. I can prime the system, so that's the prime the solvent lines. There's 5 solvent lines, line A, B, C, D, and E. I could prime all if I wanted to, or I could select the one that I want to do. You put the volume that you want to prime in here, so click, volume, and then just hit prime, and that will prime that line for you. Okay. There's 2 balances on the system, a 3 decimal place balance for the extraction fluid, so that's between 50 millilitres and 500 millilitres it's measuring, and there's a 4 decimal place balance which is for the dilution step, so that's anything from about 100 microlitres up to 20 millilitres that one is measuring. So the balances have an internal calibration, so if I click on that, they will perform their automatic internal calibration. The system will record that it has done that, okay, and the system will record that it has done it error-free. System, as I said, will record absolutely everything you do, and there is a full log for the audit trail. So once I've calibrated the balances, I can then go in and I can do a check that the balances are calibrated correctly. And that's the standard where you take your weights, your balance weights, and you place them on the balances. And the balance will give a readout, and the balance will also drop that readout into the report. So I can calibrate the balances, and then I can check that the calibration is according to my calibrated weights that I have within the laboratory. I can do that once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, once a week, whenever I want to. But whenever I do it, the system will put that into the log and the report. Okay, so I can calibrate the extraction fluid balance, or I can calibrate the 4 decimal place balance. If I want to, I can just clean the instrument on here without using a method. It's just very simple. Click that and add some parameters here, and then just press OK and it will clean. I can clean and change the grinding head inside this system. If I click on that one, it will move it to a certain position which allows me to access it. I can clean the recirculating vessel. That's where the extraction fluid sits. There's a peristaltic pump tubing here, and I can reset that once I change that tube, and then it counts down the lifetime for me. And it will give a warning to say that the tube needs to be changed shortly. I can do a database backup, and I've got the obligatory about the system here. Just close that down. So I'll go onto here, and if you notice, if you hover over any of these icons, it will give you a description of what that is. So this is the report viewer. Okay. You can, throughout the system, use these contract and expand little arrows here. So we have 3 types of reports. We have the sample report, we have the method report, and we have the system report. Okay, I'm just going to quickly show you the system report. So it's showing here that this is who was logged in or no user logged in, what has been done, a maintenance action, an action, a sample type, all chronologically logged here, and then a description of what it was actually over here. Okay. This is the peristaltic pump. It's done 4.52% of its lifetime. The instrument has been used for 6.7 hours so far, and it's run 19 samples in that time since the system was last reset. If it does a reset, then obviously that is logged. Okay, so you have a full chronological system report for your audit trail, and tells you absolutely everything that was done on the system. Okay, you cannot do anything that isn't logged on the system. Then we have our method report. In this case, it's showing 3 methods, but what if you go over to the right hand side, it shows what revision of the method has been done. So when you create a method, it is revision 1. If you change anything within that method, it then goes to the next revision. You cannot do anything that does not record that you've done a change to the method, and everything is under revision control. You'll see here that this is an unapproved method. If you approve the method, then it can allow that method to be seen by people who can only run the system. I can see these unapproved methods because I have method editor privileges that I've logged in at. You also get a report. So let me go to this one here that's had 3 revisions, and I'm going to show the report. Okay, so that's the name of the method, that's the type of system, the res crush and grind. This method is on revision 3 and it's in unapproved status. It's using a consumable code 24, which is a 0.45 micrometer hydrophilic PVDF filter, and that is very important because the system will not let you use the wrong filter type for the method. If the method knows that it's using this filter and you have a different filter on the consumable, when you try and run that method, it will say, sorry, I will not run that method, you do not have the right filter. So it is impossible to use the wrong filter with a method on this system, which obviously looks after the user from making mistakes. Then we have the method history, the 3 revisions in this case, when they were done, time-stamped, who was logged in, and then the description of what was done. And then we have the method parameters themselves. What I will say is that on every single document that is produced on the system, it will have a unique document hash code. So this is your validation that this document is unique and this document is valid. Okay, so that is very important. It's on every single page of the document that's done, and there's a unique code on every single document. So that is a complete chain of documentation custody that you have there for regulatory compliance. Right, so I'm just going to come out of here, going to close that one down, and now I'm just going to go into the sample report. Okay, so these are the samples that have been run, when they were run, who was logged in, who did them, description of the sample, description 2 if you want that. It's a much more extended field. You can put a lot of detail in that if you wish. The method that was used, it says the revision of the method and the status of the system. If it errored, it would say that there, but in this case it was okay, or if it was rejected for some unknown reason. For say I had put the wrong filter on and the method said no, it's the wrong filter, I'm not going to run that. Okay. What it also has here is on this particular system we have a video playback. So highlight the one that I want, select the play video on here, and it will pull up the video for it. So I'm just going to press play, and this will show the extraction of the sample. So if I have an out of spec investigation, I can look back on the video and see whether the extraction performed as it should have performed. And if it did, I can say, well, actually, the extraction was all good, so the reason we have a problem is unlikely to be the sample preparation, the extraction. That, coupled with all of the information that's in the sample report that I'm just about to show you, is a full trail of everything that happened on the system, so you know that things worked okay or they didn't work okay. And that's a very quick way of saying I've got an out-of-spec investigation, however I know that all of my sample preparation, the sample report and the video report, everything is fine, so it is unlikely to be there that the problem has occurred. So it's a very powerful way of investigating very quickly and tracking back on everything. Right. So I'm just going to open this. I can do that by double clicking on it. So this is my sample report. This was the description that had been entered for this sample. Description 2, nothing entered there. Mass. So that's if I had the external balance fitted, it would have put the mass that was recorded into the sample report. Processing mode was normal in this case, and this was the machine serial number, the product number. So this is it here that it was run on. The sample report came off of that machine there. The sample was entered by Nigel Harris, and this is when it was done, 19th of February, date and time. Status, all okay. If there was an error here, we would have something in the extended information saying what the error was. Typically an error can be because you've done something wrong and the system says, no, you can't do that, I'm not going to run this sample. Okay, so the system always looks after the user to make sure they're doing the right things. Then I've got my method information. So that was the name of the method. It used revision 3 of that method is what was called up, and again there's the filter type that we have. So it was a code 24.45 micrometer hydrophilic PVDF filter that was used. Status of that method was unapproved. I have privileges to run unapproved methods because of, well, not me, or Nigel did when he ran this, if I didn't, then I wouldn't be able to run it. Okay, This is the extraction results. It's a simple extraction. It was a one-step extraction. Solvent came from line A. In this case, that was water. The requested solvent volume was 65 millilitres. Okay, so this is quite important now. The machine is recording everything it does, so you cannot say that it is inaccurate or it didn't happen. Okay, you asked for 65 millilitres. The machine is going to tell you exactly what it delivered. Okay, so you ask for 65 millilitres based on the density that is stored within the method. It can calculate what you actually got. So the actual solvent mass was 64.826 grams. The actual solvent volume based on the density was 64.988 millilitres. So remember, you wanted 65, you ended up with 64.988 millilitres. This is well within grade A dispensing specifications, so everything is okay. This is highly accurate, and you also have a record of what was delivered. If it was outside of that, then you would have had an error on the report, and if it was grossly outside of grade A specification, dispensing specifications, then the system would actually stop because it would be reporting a problem. This could be that you used the wrong solvent, and it would say, you've definitely got the wrong solvent on here. You should have a different mass that we should have detected. Okay, so system is looking after you, and the system is reporting everything that has happened. So excellent audit trail. There's also a pressure sensor on the system. If you run a method, you will more or less see the same pressure profile each time. Again, you can say that that's confirmation that the correct method was run. If you compare two reports, okay, the pressure profiles look the same. This is when the pump's going forward. It's going backward in this position and then forward over this period of time. So again, another useful bit of information that you can have. Here's the document hash code. Again, as I said, every single document has its unique code that cannot be changed, and that is the unique stamp to show that this report is genuine. Okay, so filtration results. After the extraction, it's going to go to a filter step. The requested filter volume was 2 millilitres. The actual filtrate mass that we got was 1.9792 grams. Based on the density, we know that the actual filtrate volume received was 1.9842 millilitres. Okay, so that was the requested. This is what was received. Again, as you can see, very closely within a few microlitres of what was required. And again, within grade A dispensing requirements. If it was outside of that, then there would be an error. But the very important thing here is that we know exactly what we had. There is a record and a stamp of that. So this is what we have here. After the filtration, we go to a dilution. You don't have to do a dilution, but in this case, the method has called for a dilution. The dilution source is line A. The requested dilution volume is 2. However, because we didn't quite get 2 here, the calculated diluent volume that we need to get the overall dilution is 1.9842. Okay, so that's what we want. The machine wants to dispense. Then we have the actual mass, then the actual volume. The requested dilution factor is 2. The actual dilution factor is 1.992 based on the filtrate volume and the dilution that we achieved. And the overall dilution was 129.45. So this takes account of the extraction fluid in the first step and then the dilution step. System then went on to do a clean. Used again line A for this. This was the requested volume. This is the volume that we actually got based on the density in the system, so 59.711. With the cleaning step, we don't try as hard. It's more like in a fast mode where it'll get pretty close. I mean, 59.711 millilitres versus 60 is very close, but its machine is not as fussy during those steps. That whilst they're important, the accuracy is not as important. And then on top of that, we have a chronological order of what happened during that method. Okay, so Nigel was logged in for this. This is when he did it. and this is what's going on, and these are actions. So it moved carousel to puck1 for processing, so that's the position that it was put on the system. If someone would put it in position 5 or 10, it would have moved to position 5 or 10. You do not need to tell the system which position you put it in. It will find it and it will process it. Okay, so you can't go wrong by putting the sample in the wrong position on the carousel. It is looking at the work list and it will then find the sample on the carousel. So you cannot make mistakes by putting it in the wrong position. But that just tells me there that it processed it in position 1. If it had been in 5, it would have processed it in 5. Okay, then it did fill in the recirculating vessel, and then it gives me an accuracy here. So it says, okay, I filled that and I did it to 99.98%. And that's how accurate I was on my fill. So that takes the I think in this case it was 60 millilitres, and it delivered 59.99 whatever. Okay, so that's the accuracy. Then it went into the extraction. Then it took a sample of the filtrate, did a drain on the system, it dispensed the filtrate into the diluting vial, it diluted the sample. My dilution accuracy during that step was 99.19%. So there's always a record of what has happened on the system. So you've got excellent traceability of your processes. Then it took an aliquot of the diluted filtrate and it put it into the HPLC vial. So you can then go and put that on your HPLC system. Then it did a drain and a wash, and another drain, and then it did a drying, and then it finished. At this point, there was no user logged on, so it says, okay, Nigel was on, he hasn't been on the machine, I'm going to automatically log him out. Doesn't mean the machine stops being used, but it just means that there's no user logged in. And it just records that to say exactly what was happening. Again, there's the unique hash code for this report. Okay, so they're the reports: sample report, method report, and system report. All reports have hash codes. All reports are very detailed. All reports give a full audit trail of what has happened on the system. Okay, so that was in my report view. Here I've got my method editor. Just click on that. I won't actually create a method. They are very simple to create, but all I want to show here is that I've got 3 methods in here and they're showing their particular revision. If I change anything on here, it will then change the revision on there. If I go to save it, it will ask me to add my login details. It will not allow a save unless I've logged in, so then that obviously captures who is making the changes. And again, you can only make changes if you have the correct user privileges to make those changes. There's my filter types that I've got here. So I can select any of those for my method. And again, it will not run a method if you've actually physically put the wrong filter on the system. It will say, no, not using that filter, that's not what's required by that method. So system looks after you, won't allow you to do wrong things that can have a big impact on your results. Okay, so that's the methods in here. I won't actually do a method. It's pretty straightforward, but I won't build one now. Close that down. Okay, so now I have the user management. I am logged in as an administrator, and that means I can add new users. If I didn't have that privilege, I wouldn't have access to this. So if I go to add, it's asking me for the password. Okay, saying, well, you need to prove to me that you can add another person. You need the right privileges to do so. So I've done that. Okay. Name of the new user, surname, and their login password and confirm password. And then I get their role. They can be either a user. You can just simply come up to the system and run it using pre-approved methods. Then you get a method developer who can develop methods. Administrator who can administer new users. And then you get the service engineer. Service engineer cannot touch methods, cannot edit methods, cannot do anything to the system other than servicing. And always, no users on here can override any of the log of the system. Once it's in the database and logged, the system is uneditable. You cannot edit the system. Okay, right, just cancel that because I won't actually add one. Okay, so that was the last icon really. I can log myself out up here if I want to just walk away from the system. The system will log me out automatically, but if I want to log out, I can do that. So if it was doing a run here, the only way I could come in and do anything on the system is to log in. So in the log report on that particular time, it will say a new person has logged in at this time. And if I was running a sample, the fact that a new person had logged in or the original person had logged back in, then that would show up on the sample report. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that every action is recorded. Absolutely every action is recorded, along with the performance of the system is all recorded. Anyway, I hope that's useful. What I'll do is I'll do another video in a bit, which will actually show using the machine and not just the software. Okay, thank you.